Hi everyone and welcome back to the Clever Report. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on post notifications to be notified anytime I drop another video. So today we're going to talk about the suicidal empathy from the West. These Western countries, I don't know, especially in the United Kingdom, I don't know who has actually told them that everything that their ancestors did is somehow bad and they should keep apologizing for actually being white. And also, this unchecked migration issue is a very, very serious problem. Yes, people want to migrate to the United Kingdom, people want better opportunities, especially people from third world countries, many African countries. But there is a difference, stark difference between legal and illegal migration. That is what is one of the biggest problems of the United Kingdom. And now, these migrant issues, migrants committing majority of the violent crimes and stuff, brings us to the story of Henry Novak. Yes, the guy that actually stabbed him to death was not literally a migrant, but he's from the Silk community. So basically, they had a brawl and he stabbed Henry Novak 5 good times. But when the policeman came, he actually called the policeman, and when the policeman came, he claimed racism, and the policeman cuffed this guy, a UK citizen, cuffed him, and he died on the spot. So these are issues that are ravaging the United Kingdom. Some people are using it to play politics, but this brings to the larger conversation. If the roles were reversed, imagine what happened in 2020. 2020 when George Floyd was killed. Some people say he had enough fentanyl that could knock off a horse in his system. Be it as it may, the optics were very, very, kind of wrong coming from the policeman that actually put his knee on his neck, even if he know what happened. But when he was killed, the black people in the United States burnt down everywhere. They burned down, people lost their businesses, small businesses, even some people from the black community actually were victims of these burnings and everywhere. But then the leftists on this social media, everybody was, cheering for the black community, cheering for them destroying businesses just because of the death of George Floyd. Nobody is actually cheering for the death of George Floyd. Everybody knows that what happened was a very, very pitiable situation. It wasn't supposed to happen. But there's a stark difference between this Henry Novak's case and that of George Floyd. There's a news clip of Cathy Newman, a presenter that was actually interviewing Zaya Yusuf, one of the spokesperson of the Reform Party in the United Kingdom. The clip is so jarring that when this guy asked her rather, that if white lives actually mattered, she couldn't even say anything. She couldn't even come to the conclusion to say that all lives matters, at least at the least. It's not even about saying white lives matters or black lives matters, but she couldn't say anything. So I want us to watch the clip, and then I'll give you my take on that.
You seem to be conducting an interview with me, but I'm trying.
White lives matter as much as black lives. And my question to you is, do you disagree with that statement?
And my question to you is about Nigel Farage's claim.
Kind of stunned that you couldn't bring yourself to say that you agree with the statement that white lives matter as much as black lives. I can't understand why you can't just confirm you agree with that statement.
Zia, you're the senior member of a party. You're a politician.
I don't understand why you can't bring yourself to confirm that you agree with the statement that white lives matter as much as black lives. Cathy, you've been conducting this interview on a premise that it is wholly inappropriate to watch that body cam footage and be furious. It is wholly inappropriate to conclude from watching that body cam footage that there should be some political ramifications for this. When in 2021, Cathy, you wrote op-ed after op-ed, article after article in newspapers like The Independent about George Floyd. In fact, let me quote you your own words. You expressed delight that the BLM hashtag transported, and this is a direct quote from you, Cathy, transported the rage of George Floyd's death across the four corners of the globe.
Zia, so I've said
the point
to
that we are making
Zia, I've said to you, I understand people are angry.
A totally different reaction, Cathy. Not just from you. I'm only putting that to you because I'm speaking to you now. But I'm afraid this has been endemic across most of the media landscape in this country and the institutions in this country. And the reality is this: because Henry
Zia, may I
was
just
a white
respond
man,
to that
because
point?
Henry was a white man,
Zia,
because Henry was a white man,
you seem to be interviewing
simply unwilling
me,
to accept that this sort of thing.
Isn't it very, very, very crazy that this news anchor or this talking head for the mainstream media could not even openly say that all lives matter or even white lives matter, But I love the fact that the guy called her on her hypocrisy and told her that during 2020, during George Floyd. Meanwhile, this is coming from not this guy is not black, he's not white. It's coming from Yusuf. Is basically from the Arab community, but he was born in the UK. But for the fact that it's coming from this guy telling a white woman that white lives actually matter, and she can't even bring herself to say it. This is a very very bad stereotype, especially coming from white leftist, white leftist women. They can't even come out to say that these things happening to like the indigenous people in these white European communities or countries is actually utterly very very bad. And it brings us to another clip of what has been trending over, for the past 3 days on social media, especially on Twitter, formerly on X, formerly known as Twitter, in an immigration debate, whereby the guy was actually trying to tell the lady that if there's an unchecked migration, imagine 10 million people enter the United Kingdom, for example, that there will be housing crisis. And the clip is so jarring that she couldn't even make a counterpoint, but she had to, make faces. And this is the same tactics that especially these female white liberals use when they can't defend their point. They make these faces to signal to the crowd that somehow the person making the argument is kind of weird. So I want us to watch the clip. It's like a 16-second clip, and you see the hypocrisy in her actions, and she couldn't even defend her positions rather than making faces and trying to label the guy as being weird or being stupid for saying like a very very factual statement.
Blaming our housing crisis on immigration is absolutely wild to me, actually.
Well,
Robert,
that says more about
do
you
think
because
that
we've got an extra 10, 20 million people coming in the country.
Do you think that if do you think
so
that
do you
if
not
we
think an extra 10 million people is going to have an effect on housing?
do you think that
in the
if
UK?
we lock down our borders, we're going to solve the housing crisis?
Well,
is that going to solve
the thing
it?
is, the more people you have in a country, the more houses you're going to need. I know it might sound.
He's really good at explaining things.
Everybody that doesn't have an agenda watching that clip actually knows that he's actually very very right and the lady is wrong, but the lady couldn't make any counterpoint. This is the same tactics that leftists used to stifle conversation. They make it seem like you're very weird or you're racist for saying these factual points. Like if there's an influx of 10 million migrants, legal or illegal, in a country, there's probably going to be housing crisis. Doesn't mean that migrants are not even helping the economy or migration is actually bad, but unchecked migration is what is very very is a very very big problem, especially in the United Kingdom. So these crazy leftists always find a way to label people that are actually making sense as weird. Just like the way black people in this Camelo's case with the late Austin Metcalf, whereby the black kid actually stabbed the white kid to death, and you see the black community running around this black individual because just for the fact that he is black. It's not the fact that he actually brought a knife to a track meet event and stabbed this young, promising white guy to death. But they don't care. Everybody's playing to their skin color, playing to their race, playing to their gender. If the West continues like this suicidal empathy, this route they are taking, they are going to be cooked in the next 10 years because the birth rates are plummeting in the United Kingdom and in the United States, in virtually most white-dominated countries. So if they don't check this, illegal migration, they are going to, suffer the brunt of this whole case in the long run. And that is all I'm going to say about that. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on post notifications so you'll be notified anytime I drop another video. Until next time, peace.